Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 9 of the Football Unfiltered podcast. Liam, mate, how are you?
Yes, mate. All good. Been a little while now, but
Yeah,
looking
it's going
forward
to be
to
a
this
decent one, isn't
episode.
it? We've got FA Cup action, a little bit of Carabao Cup action, which we may touch on as well. Plus, then we have all of January to touch on. The transfer special, we're going to call this one today, because I think we've got a lot to touch on. Again, we missed the episode last week due to other commitments. So today we do have a bit of catching up to do. We haven't really spoken either, so we've got a lot to touch on when it comes to maybe a little bit of Plymouth and QPR as well. There's going to be no news this week. I know a lot has happened, but because we're doing a transfer special, there's no point really touching on new managers and sackings and all of this other stuff. We're just going to primarily focus on the FA Cup and then the transfers that we saw throughout January as well. But yeah, mate, do you want to start some of your favourite transfers? Let's get going without any waiting time.
Yeah, look, we'll go through. We'll start talking about the Premier League. I think there's only one place to really start with. Is It's been going on for most of January. Is Marcus Rashford? Obviously, he secured his loan move to Villa. Just want your thoughts, really. First of all, how do you think this move suits Rashford, and do you think he will strive
I
at
think, yeah,
Villa?
like you say, it was one of those that have been going on for so long now. Like it seemed never ending. It never thought Rashford was going to get his move away from United, and now he has obviously secured that loan move. An option to buy 50 million as well, which is a bit steep for a player in dire form. But will he find his form at Villa? It's all dependent. I think on where Emery plays him. We've seen him; he's taken the number 9 shirt straight off John Duran, a transfer that we'll probably end up touching on later on. If I'm being honest, we're going to rank transfers as well, aren't we, at the end and pick out our favourites. If I'm being honest, this would be one of my top ranks for Villa. I think this is a great transfer in. But then they also have signed Asensio on loan and then that Marlon from Dortmund. So again, he's going to be fighting very, very competitively for space in that Villa side. Um, but for me, overall, I think this may be a good move for Rashford. You, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, Villa is obviously a great club, so I think it is a good move for Rashford. It depends what Rashford Villa get. We all know what's been going on recently with him behind the scenes as well. Obviously, Amarin. Um, when Amarin came in, there's been a lot said about Rashford going out before games, this, that, and the other. It depends what Rashford we do see. Um, we know how prolific Rashford can be in the Premier League. He's proven it over many years, and he's a great finisher. And on this day, he's such a good player. Um, it's if he can sort himself out off the pitch as well as on the pitch.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to some mates today about this move. Some of my mates think he won't strive forward. I'd like to think that Rashford can develop it at Villa, and I think this would be this is a really good move for both parties. I've also just got another question for you. Do you think this is obviously it's got the 50 mil buy? Could you see him going back to United after this? Say, for example, he has a really good spell and Villa don't buy him. Do you think Amarin would take him back and try him again, or do you think the respect levels between Amarin and Rashford are
I
starting
think
to
there's a
dip a
lot
little
of
bit?
factors to that. That's kind of one of those questions with a million and one answers, mate. You throw me right in the deep end because I'll give my three sides of the argument. Will be will Amorim still be at United by the end of the season? Is my argument number one. Two, this is
Of
United we're
course he
talking about. This
will.
is Radcliffe. I saw a chap actually. Funny story. Quickly, I saw a chap who is a United season ticket holder. He was bursting on my Twitter feed, and he he called up to buy a Leicester ticket, and his ticket had been resold. He's a season ticket holder. He wanted to buy his FA Cup ticket. His ticket had been resold, so he said, "Okay, no worries. I won't bother this Friday." And apparently, I don't know how this may not be gospel, but the person in the ticket office told him that he had to buy a ticket or they were going to freeze his season ticket for a Premier League game of their choosing, not his own. So that I think that may say a lot about Jim Ratcliffe and his current Man United affairs. But that's just a little bit that I saw on Twitter. So again, may not be the truth. But back onto Rashford. I think my second part to that would be Rashford himself would be stupid to go back to back to United if he's played so well at Villa. I think you've kind of maybe burnt that bridge with United. You're striving now in a very, very strong Villa side. I don't see why you'd move back. And then my final thing would be if you're Villa and he's just had a very good back end to the season, would you not throw 50 million at him, or would you? It's just again another point to the question. If I'm Emery and I've got a player that's performing and it's Marcus Rashford, I'm putting 50 million on the line for him. What about you? What are you thinking? Do you think you would?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. If you got a fire in Rashford, 50 million for 27
It's
year old.
pennies, really, isn't it, these days?
Um, yeah, I think I think that would be brilliant. Obviously, this is if buts maybes if he has a good spell, um, which I'd like to see him obviously have. And I think that kind of talk about maybe the buyout leads in quite nicely because obviously he didn't leave in the January window. There was lots of talk near the end about Ollie Watkins heading over to Arsenal. Now, Arsenal, there's been a lot of talk about them needing a striker. I think they need a striker. Um, First of all, do you think Arsenal will look at this window with a bit of regret not buying a striker? Or do you think Arteta and the club have looked at it I can't say the word strategically and gone, prices are going to be up in January. Let's just hold out and let's start for the summer. I just want to know your opinions because I personally, I think as much as they need a striker, I think this is a good idea for from
I
Arsenal
totally agree.
to get someone in at a later
Yeah,
date.
I do agree with you. I mean, we saw they net 5 against a very weakened City side, not in terms of the weakened side they put out, but they're low self esteem at the moment, aren't they? City, they're just a little bit lacking in all departments. But that doesn't take anything away from Arsenal's performance. But again, you look at that, they've put 5 past one of the best sides that probably English football will see. Um, so do they need a striker? That's the whole question that's on everyone's mind at the moment. I don't think they'll regret not buying one. I think, like you say, I agree with you that buying one in the summer, price is going to be a little bit lower. Contracts are closer to their end, unless obviously we can see any big renewals. But the contracts are coming to another segment where they're closer to being up. Clubs are looking more likely to sell, and then they have more time to rebuild their squads in the summer. January is such a hard time to sell and buy for certain clubs because you don't have necessarily enough time to then strengthen, and you're also playing games every week, twice a week sometimes, especially in cases like Arsenal where they are still in a cup competition. No, they're not in the FA Cup, are they? They're in the Carabao Cup, they're in the Champions League, and they're in the Premier League. They didn't really have time to make a massive gamble on a striker because you can't then see him in a pre-season environment. You have to buy him off form, and for me currently, no striker really fits that Arsenal build on current form. Everyone's saying Isaac, but Isaac performs so well with decent balls into the box. He thrives off little bits, little scraps. Arsenal's goals, I'd say, are better than scraps at the moment, especially. They're scoring some decent world class team goals. A striker like Isaac, maybe even Watkins, I don't necessarily think fits that Arsenal side currently. But again, it's one thing that we may see come the window. Isaac may be wearing an Arsenal shirt, and I'll have a egg on my face, as they say. But yeah, we'll have to see, won't we? But speaking of outgoings and strikers, just currently sticking to the Villa route, what do you think about John Duran? 21, he's getting a lot of slate for moving to Saudi. I think if I was given the opportunity to take, I think it's £350,000 a week to go and play in Saudi Arabia, 100% I would, especially if I come from the Colombian streets, really. I would 100% be taking that money, paying off all of the family, getting them in their nice establishments, and then worrying about football as a second priority.
Yeah, look, I don't see this being a bad move for him. Um, Obviously, people look at it and be like, yeah, he's just gone for the money, whatnot, whatnot. He's 21 years old. Imagine earning 300k 5k
That's
a
me.
week.
For anyone that's watching,
Like
that's
that's
me. I'm
ridiculous.
21 and I'm sat here with my mate recording a
That,
podcast. And I'm definitely not earning 350 grand a week.
like that just sets him up for life and his family. I saw something the other day, and I don't know if it's something to believe. But he's actually having to get because him and his girlfriend, um, in in Saudi Arabia, that you have to be married to be able to live
Yes, yeah,
together.
yeah. So
Is
you
that
have to be,
correct?
yeah, married. So he's living in Bahrain or something, isn't he?
Yeah. So he's actually having to get a flight every single day, um, which, to be honest, isn't going to bother him with the amount of money he's on. Um, but look, that's why I think this Rashford deal as well could be so pivotal for Villa. I think it's a great move from Villa. They've got a bit of money out of it, well, a lot of money out of it. Um, so yeah, I think this is a really good move. And Villa have brought in, obviously we spoke about him, but Donnell Marlon, who, again, I think he's been in the picture for a while. Like I've watched him like a fair bit. Um, obviously at Dortmund and his time in the Netherlands. I think he's got quite a bit of talent. Um, bags of pace, strong. And I think that's a really good move for Villa as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was just reading something. And then just on the John Duran one as well, he gets to play with the best footballer obviously ever, doesn't he, as well? To play with Sadio Mane, um,
Yeah,
which is nice for him. And then sorry, I was actually reading about the next transfer that I was going to talk to you about because I was actually umming and ahhing as to what I was going to say about it. And it is the Marco Asensio deal because we're obviously sticking to the Villa thing. They've signed 3 could be classified wingers. You've got the Marlon, you've got Rashford, and then you've got Asensio only on loan with no option to buy from what I read. But again, that may have changed or that may be still in order. But that's 3 wingers strengthening a team that are already pretty fierce going forward. How do you think with Villa's current squad that those transfers are going to affect the way they play? Because I'm just looking at their team sheet now from the weekend. They had then their 2-0 defeat to Wolves. Their front 3 was McGinn, Rogers, Ramsey, Watkins. But then you add in 3 extras. That's 7 players now you have going forward. Plus, then you have Leon Bailey still at the club. And then who have you got out injured? They do have another one out injured. Who probably doesn't make the squad. Sorry, I'm just reading it. They've got then Ross Barkley, who's probably would swap for that John McGinn role, who was fielding in that number 10. But that's 8, 9 players now who are probably good enough for the Premier League starting positions, who you've got battling over 4 positions.
yeah. Look, it's not a bad option to have, is it? Really, the amount of quality attackers they do have. They've obviously sent out Emi Buendia. He's gone out on loan to Germany.
And your favourite player as
Um,
well.
so
Sent another
that's
one out,
one
haven't they?
gone.
Suppose you've not named him yet. Louis Barry.
Who?
We love him on the
Oh
pod.
no, I want to mention that later, Louis Barry.
um,
Um,
but yeah, Buendia as well out.
but yeah, this is a great option for Emery to have. Um, a lot of attacking threat. Um, yeah, it could become an issue in parts where people are obviously expecting to be starting, playing for positions. But look, Villa are in a situation where 8th in the league at the moment. Um, I wouldn't say they've been amazing this year. Obviously, the expectations are up here a little bit from some people, but I think just getting a European spot would be a brilliant aim for Villa and how well they've done in the Champions League this season. I think they're going to need all these players um, in the back end of the season. So I don't see it as a bad thing. Um, but yeah, I just see it as a positive for Emery. He's got so many options. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. Like I say, he's got so many options, and he's still in 3 competitions. We're going to touch on the FA Cup games, aren't we? Just after the transfers, but they do have Spurs on Sunday, which could see them progress into another round, which then you're looking at they're still in FA Cup, still in the Champions League, and still in the Premier League. That rotation there is really going to help a team like Villa, where legs may be an issue. They're probably not used to having this many games. They've obviously the first season back in the Champions League. They're not used to having games literally twice a week. So it's probably handy to have that little bit of rotation in there. And Emery knows that. He's not a stupid man, is he? He's probably one of the best managers in the Premier League currently. My next transfer, so as we've done this for anyone listening, is that we've kind of picked out a few, haven't we? Kind of few key ones. We're not going to run through every single transfer from every single team. But my next transfer question to you was actually an outgoing from Chelsea themselves. They were obviously looking more this season to get rid of some rather than bring in, because like Enzo said, that he would rather, he's got such a big squad, he'd rather wilt that down than bring any new players in. He said he's got a happy squad. Mine is the João Felix. They signed him on a 7 or 8 year deal. They've now loaned him out. What do you think on the? Firstly, I got two part question. What do you think on 7 year contracts and that malarkey? And then also the Felix deal. What do you think that he can necessarily take to that AC Milan side? We don't typically talk about European teams, but today's probably quite a nice exception to that.
Yeah. So look, let me talk about the first question. Obviously, with your 7 year contract, look, it's how Chelsea are going at the moment. They've obviously got Cole Palmer on a 7 year deal as well, haven't they? That's the way they're going now with their new signings. It obviously stops them from getting in trouble with the financial fair play. I don't mind it, because at the end of the day, the players obviously are not going to commit to 7 years. It's clear. But yeah, I don't really have too much about it to say. But on the João Felix, I'm glad we touched on it. I was driving home today and I was listening to another podcast, and they were touching on João Felix. And it was really interesting to see. Like, a lot of people hold on to that João Felix wonder kid that was
the
coming
Benfica
through,
João Felix,
18 years old, and that overrides everything that happens at the moment. Where I really don't rate João Felix as a player. I think he's very one dimensional. I don't think he's not an I don't think he's a out and out striker. I'd like to see him more in the
or even a little bit wide. Wide, he seemed all right.
Yeah, or playing out left, because I don't know what his natural position is. But yeah, again, he's been at AC before. Not AC. I'm thinking of Atletico there. Obviously, he's not played in Syria. But it might be a good move for him. Who knows? I don't really take much notice on João Felix. But yeah, I think this is actually quite a good move for Chelsea. Get him out, get him away, and hopefully maybe he gets a bit of form and they can try again with him. But I think he's had many shots.
I totally agree with you. I think from my only real negative towards this deal from a Chelsea perspective, and I get many clubs probably weren't willing to gamble for the fee that they were necessarily asking for. I just don't get why you haven't sold him, if I'm honest. Like you say, I've never really been a massive João Felix fan. Like you say, he was a good wonder kid coming through when he was at Benfica, and then went to Atletico for obviously 121 million pounds or euros. It was kind of the statement deal about 5-6 years ago now, and he's not done anything since. He never really performed in that Atletico side as well as probably 120 million looks. He's now joined Chelsea again. He's done nothing. He scored against Wolves. That's the only real memorable moment I have from him. And if you're Chelsea, you're still probably paying a massive cut of his wages. I'm not sure the exacts on the loan agreement, or if there's an obligation to buy with this one, but you're paying most of his wages more than likely. He's still on the books. He's returning to Chelsea next season again, more than likely. It's not a loan move where you're trying to seek a player to come back to your side and join your starting 11, because I don't think he will. I don't think Enzo would have got rid of him if that's what he was looking for. I think he would have kept hold of him and given him some more game time. So it's not like they had a falling out or anything like that. I just don't think he's a player for Chelsea. And again, I know it's easier said than done. Sell a player, get rid of him, but I just think you would have been looking for, if you're Chelsea from January 1st, you should have been looking to get him out of the club rather than on loan. But that's the way the business is. I suppose sometimes it's not. They don't pick and choose who comes in for players. Your next transfer? Do you want to pick one?
Yeah, I think we should just do a couple more, and then we'll pick out our what we think is
Yeah,
our
yeah,
best
definitely.
um, signing, really. But for me, I want to touch on this player because I think he's had obviously a hard time over the last couple of years. Still keeping to the Chelsea link, but Ben Chilwell to Palace. Now Enzo Maresca came out and said that obviously he doesn't fit the system at Chelsea. He's struggled so badly with injuries over many seasons now. And I think this Palace move might be really good for him. Um, Obviously, it's only a loan move, isn't it? But I'm unsure if there's again an option to buy. But this is a chance for him to really impress. Obviously, he's got lots of competition. He's got Tyreek Mitchell, who's a half sensible fullback. But Ben Chilwell is a great addition for Palace. Again, I don't know what you think about this, but is Chilwell more of a wing back? Is he a left back? What would you class Ben Chilwell as? Because for me, I think he's a wing back, and Palace do not play
No,
that system with wing backs.
off kind of, I agree with you. I think he's probably a better wing back than full back. But Palace do get their fullbacks a little bit higher than what a traditional fullback looks like. It's definitely not a wing back role, but then again, it's that awkward position of it's not really a fullback either. It's like that modern day fullback, which does get up a little bit. So I think we could see him strive there, especially if he's willing to get game time in certain games, because I do think Mitchell's still a very good left back. I think it's going to be a tough position for Chilwell to come in. I don't think he's just going to walk into the side. But I think it's great rotation for Palace. I think that's kind of what they've been looking for. They kept hold of Gahey on the last day of the month, which is not obviously transfer news because he stayed. But that shows a team with a little bit of ambition now. They're rotating. They're getting squad depth. They're looking like a team that may be able to, and eventually, a few years' time, look to push for maybe a Europa League spot, or maybe even just break that seal and get into the top 10, which I think we'd all like to see Palace do, because I think they're one of the clubs that you can't really hate, if I'm honest. I don't know if that's just me. I've got a little bit of a soft spot for them, but they're just a club that you can't really dislike. They don't really have much going for them. So I think this is just, it's a promising signing from Oliver Glasner there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, look, I like Palace. I think they're a good club, great fan base. And yeah, I think it's a good. I just think it's an overall a solid signing for both parties. Um, and I do just hope that Chilwell can stay injury free. Because on his day, we know how good of
Yeah,
a left
I
back he
agree.
is,
Yeah,
or wing
definitely.
back.
I've only got two more. I've got two
Should
more to go through.
we?
One's a full club, but I'm not going to talk about every transfer they've done. And then I've got one transfer, which I think is a good one to talk about. How many do you have? I know we've obviously prepped a little bit differently because we wanted to pick up.
I'll probably touch on
Fine, fair enough.
one
My
more.
club that I want to touch on, you'll definitely have an opinion on this player, this team, is City. I just kind of want to give a little overriding message about them, because they've spent another 200 million, 216 million. The whole of La Liga spent 26 million. So that's a good chunk of money, more than the whole of the La Liga. What are your opinions on some of the players they've brought in? Do you think that's what they needed, or is it just kind of like a desperation buy? We've never seen City really desperate buy, but is this the first time they're showing it?
Look, I don't think it's. Look, first of all, yeah, they spent 200 million again. It's crazy. Um, I don't think it's them panicking. Um, they're going to be going through a stage now of rebuilding. The squad's aging. My player that I was actually going to talk about is a City player. Is Omar
I thought that
Mamouche.
would be the case. I thought it was going to be one of the four.
Actually, he's already made obviously two appearances, and I thought he's looked quite bright in them. Um, obviously signing from Frankfurt. Um, I think he's a great player and something that City actually need. A bit of fresh legs up there, quick, can whip a good delivery in and can get amongst the goals. So yeah, I do think this is a good signing
Yeah,
for
I
City.
agree. And then my last little bit on City was letting Kyle Walker go on loan. I think that was kind of just out the blue. Nobody really expected to see him just depart so quickly. In fact, like it was one day he was happy, the next day he was like, "Nah, Pep, I'm gone, mate." And then he was at AC Milan and playing in the Milan derby. Like it seemed like the week after. Um, but yeah, that's just a strange one to me. Have you got any opinions on that, or do you want me to touch on my final transfer before we move on to the FA Cup?
Yeah,
My final
touching
one.
on
My
your
final
final
one is probably the
transfer.
weirdest transfer that happened that I've seen in probably recent years. Not because who it is and where they've gone, but because on how it's come about. Matthias Tell to Tottenham. What? Like to me, that's ridiculous. What happened with Matthias Tell? I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I was reading a lot about it because I watched the whole of Deadline Day. Quite luckily, I was working from home, so I had a day in front of the telly. Um, But the Mateus Tell situation. So Friday, Levy goes to meet him, says, "Yeah, we'll give you this. We'll do this. We'll do this." Tell tells him apparently to his face, "No." The deal's then shut. The deal's not then happening now. So Tottenham move on. They go and bid for another couple of centre halves. Weird because Tell's obviously an attacking threat. And then you get to deadline day. Spurs have reignited that flame. They want Tell again. Fine. The loan moves on. He's now flying. His agents posted him flying to London. He lands in Farnborough Private Airport. He's on his way to Spurs. Levy then goes back on the phone to Bayern and goes, "Nah, mate, we don't want him on loan. We want to buy. We want to put an option to buy in there." Bayern are like, "Nah." By the time he gets from Farnborough Airport to Spurs, which is probably about an hour and a half drive, not too distant from me at the moment, about an hour and a half drive, I'd say. Spurs have been rejected for the 60 million and then accepted for the 60 million. So it not only started Friday when he said, "Nah, I'm not joining Spurs, they're crap." He's then rejected Arsenal, rejected United. Transfer deadline day's come about. He's loaned to Spurs. Everything's in place. Oh, now he's got an obligation to buy for 60 million. If you're Tottenham, you're rubbing your hands together. You've got a player that has proven themselves as a young talent. Harry Kane's rated him highly, and now he's joining, and you've got the option to buy him for 60 million. When originally you were just going to be that farm where you were going to take him in, he was going to play loads of games, and he was just going to go back to Bayern, probably win the trophies there, and that was that. Now you've got a 60 million player who may be worth more come the end of the season, and you're laughing if you leave. I think. Have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really good signing. Tottenham, to be honest, Tottenham in general have had a whirlwind of a transfer window. Lots of players linked and not wanting to go. But I think in the end, this is a good move for them. Obviously, with the buy on as well, I think this should really help Tottenham.
I fully agree. Honestly, I think it's a transfer that they needed. In fact, offers something different, which
Mm,
is what Spurs have been lacking. I know everyone. I'm a Postecoglou fan. I really rate him as a manager. His results definitely have not gone the way that they should be as a Spurs manager. But if you're Tottenham, what are you really expecting? You're not expecting 15th. Don't get me wrong, but the expectation from that football club is ridiculous to what they've achieved. I've got, as mentioned it before, family connections to Tottenham. So I'm a bit like, what are you actually expecting from a team that's not won anything since 09 and 10, 08, 09, sorry, when the likes of Jonathan Woodgate was scoring the winner. So I think this is a great move for him personally. But yeah, should we go through some championship ones? I've only got a couple from the championship, and one is a massive hatred towards one player.
yeah, I think we can all guess who that is. But I
Yeah,
think,
you
do you
rattle
want me
on.
to start
You've probably got more than
with
me.
a few?
I've got two or three, and one of them is going to be yours anyway.
I think, to be honest, some of the signings this year, January transfer window, I wasn't expecting. I think there's been lots of quality coming into the championship this year, this January. To be honest, I think I'm going to start with the team that I think had the
Borough.
best transfer window. which you're not going to
Yeah, I
like,
know.
but I
Yeah, I
think it
agree.
is Middlesbrough. You look at some of the signings they've made. First of all, Mark Travers in goal. Goalkeeper wise, Middlesbrough haven't been great. Obviously, they got Senny Dieng, who's
He's mustard though.
currently
He's proper
injured,
stepped up.
I believe.
He's so much better than your little Tim Pot club.
Um, but I think Mark Travers again. Look, he's never had that chance in the Prem. Um, been on loan at Stoke last year. I think he's a really good player to get in on loan. Shores up that defensively a bit. Obviously, Kalichi and Nacho from Sevilla on loan.
That's
Um,
ridiculous.
a proven goal scorer at Premier League level. You got them Ryan Giles on loan. Um, and obviously, I, we may as well go on to it now that we're here. Um, obviously, Morgan Whittaker, I want to say my bit quickly and I'll let you
Say
go.
that as if I'm going to explode.
Um, obviously, obviously, yes, Morgan Whittaker is a good player. Um, 8 million, I'm not sure. For me, I think he's got a lot to prove himself. Uh, yeah, that's to be honest, that's all I got to say. Obviously, I can't remember what show what I was watching, but obviously he was walking with um
He was walking with the pundit, wasn't he?
some guy, obviously interviewing him and giving his story side of the story to the Middlesbrough thing, to the Plymouth thing. But yeah, again, it's a good move for Whitaker. Do I think he'll impress and strive there? I'm not
I
sure.
agree. I think if you had said 8 million at the end of last season, maybe 8 to 10 million at the end of last season, yeah, 100%. I would have said that you're getting a bargain with 8 million. I'd say, and not even biased because now I've got no real like towards the player. But I think, yeah, like you say, January this window, take 8 million. I'll bite your hand off for 8 million. For that player, he's not played well this season. I think he's got 3 goals for us. One against QPR, which was a decent strike, and I can't remember the other 2 now. But they were all decent strikes. They weren't actually a team goal. He wasn't really involved in much. So yeah, 8 million at 100%. I'll take. And then, like you touched on the situation that he had with Miran Muslik, no one really knows. You're never going to know until one of the players in the room, one of the staff members in the room tells what actually happened. You've got one side of the story, the other side of the story, the truth somewhere in the middle. You're not going to know. I don't really have, as much as I did just joke about it, I don't really have a hatred towards him because he may be telling the truth. And then the Plymouth fans are going to be eating their words. So I don't really want to say too much on it because, again, he may be completely correct. But yeah, like you say, I'm not actually too disheartened in the player we've sold there, especially if it is true that he didn't want to turn up and it does come out down the line that he didn't turn up because he wanted to force a move. Then that says everything you need to know. Um, but yeah, my one player I've only got a couple, like I mentioned, Marcus Edwards to Burnley on loan with an option to buy of 9 million, I think it was, or 8.5. That's for me a really, really decent signing for Burnley. That's a proper statement to the league to say, look, we're here and we're not really messing about. I think he's a quality player. We saw him really light up the Champions League last season. He did really well for Sporting in that front three when they had that Girakez as well, and um, what's the chap called? I'm having a head blank. The right winger played for Real Madrid. I want to say Cohen Sal, maybe. I can't remember now. He was in that front three that were lighting up the Champions League last year. And now he's on loan at Burnley. I
Mm.
don't really know what's happened. I don't really keep too much of an eye on the Portuguese league, but I think it's a great move for him. You?
Uh, yeah, that was probably one of my main ones as well. Marcus Edwards. Obviously, that was on deadline day. Um, it's a great move for Burnley. I think Burnley, since I've been obviously I rave quite a bit about Burnley. I do like them. Attacking wise, they've been a bit flat as of late. Um, I don't think they've had the best of transfer windows. Burnley, obviously bringing in Ashley Barnes back from Norwich, John Shelby. Um, yeah, just Burnley obviously is so good defensively. I think they need a
We
little
missed
bit
one
more
with Middlesbrough,
firepower
sorry.
up front.
I'm just reading through.
Uh,
Samuel Illing Jr. as well. That's not really, we don't need to talk about it, but yeah, Samuel Illing Jr. on loan.
yeah, I was only just listening a few from Middlesbrough, but yeah, I think again going back to Burnley quickly, I think they just needed a bit more firepower. Um, but we'll have to wait and see with that. Um, I'm just going to touch on a few more names that we've already mentioned. Lefay to Sunderland, and obviously Wilson Isidore. They managed to get him on a permanent Sunderland. Obviously, Lefay, he's played a few games. I was watching on Monday night against Borough and their 3-2 win. Lefay, man of the match in that game, played really well, controlled the middle of the park. And again, I think he's going to be someone that can take Sunderland that step further. Um, Sunderland, obviously, they are still pushing for that top two. Do I think they'll get it? I'm not too confident. But again, getting Wilson Isidore, we know how good of a striker he is. He's a bully up front. And I think, again, getting him on a permanent, that's really good for Sunderland's hopes. And then going on to another title challenger in Sheffield United, I think they've also had a really good window. Obviously, signing Tom Cannon for 10 million from Leicester, I think that's a really, really good signing. Um, he's a proven goal scorer. Again, Hamza Chowdhury, really good centre midfielder. He's been a bit hit and miss over the last few seasons, but again, I'm sure he'll slot straight in perfectly at Sheffield United. Diaz, we all know about Ben Brereton Diaz. Rob Holding at the back, I think this is a perfect level for Rob
He's not a
Holding.
Prem player, is he? I don't
Um,
think.
and I think he'll. No, and I just think he
Yeah,
slots in
yeah, I
perfectly in
agree.
his side. Um,
I've got
I've
one.
got two more players that
I've
I just
got
want to
one.
talk
So
about
I'm not
before
really
we.
going to touch on Plymouth or QPR. Well, you may, if you want to touch on QPR, totally fine. I'm not going to touch on Plymouth's window because I think it has really improved our side, but it's what we needed. But then my last player is actually an ex-Plymouth player who we had on loan in Luke Cundle. I think he's got his move finally. £1 million it was. They demanded a few more million from Plymouth when we did ask about the availability of Luke Cundle. And I think it kind of said a lot. I know obviously you were at the game and we're not going to talk about results because we're going to do FA Cup, but obviously he scored against QPR in his first game for the club. He is a very, very good player. And I think £1 million is a steal. And I think if you're Plymouth, we need a little bit of that. I think we could have afforded to throw £1 million at him, but never mind. That's just my personal opinion. And then my last thing I actually said before you can do your final two is it does show the gap in financial stability in the Premier League, in the Championship, doesn't it? Because Sheffield United have spent 10 million on Tom Cannon there with add-ons or whatever it was. Plymouth and probably QPR are never going to spend 10 million on them in any years to come. Like, it's just finances that we don't ever see, really, is it? But they can just afford to throw 10 million at a very good striker, but 10 million worth, a bit of an ask.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it does show. Obviously, they've got their parachute
We'll get that
payments.
when we go down to all right.
But yeah, going on to Luke Cundle as well. Don't think he could have had an easier chance, to be honest,
He's
against
playing the
us. He
easiest team in
scored.
the league, though, wasn't he? So
Morgan
it
Fox just.
is what it is.
Um, but yeah, I've got two more players that, obviously, first of all, Hull City. I just want to touch on Hull City. I think they've had a really good window. I think Ruben Selles has done really well. Um, I think obviously the signing of them all is Louis Barry. I think that's a great signing and impressive that they've been able to pull a player of that caliber, because there was lots of interest from other clubs. You had Middlesbrough sniffing around. I know you had Derby sniffing around. So yeah, it's a really good move for both parties there. Um, it's a big step up for Louis Barry. Obviously, we know how well he did the first half of the season at Stockport. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Again, they signed Joe Gelhart, who I do really like as a football player. Um, Scored a great goal against us a couple of weeks ago. Um, and I think he's a player that's not really kicked on. He's been stuck in Leeds and stuck in the pile, I think, to be honest. Again, but they signed Carl Joseph. We know how well he was doing at Blackpool. I think he was on 10 goals this season. John Egan from Burnley, Matt Crooks. We know what he's done previously at Middlesbrough and Rotherham. So yeah, I think again, Hull City as a whole. I just wanted to touch on them. I think they're once they get these players starting to click, I think that's going to be a really good. They're going to look back at this window thinking, "God, that was a good window for us," and this could keep them up because obviously we all know whereabouts they are
Yeah,
in
struggling a
that
little
league
bit,
at the
aren't they?
moment. Now, this is where I think out of all the transfers I spoke about, Premier League and Championship, for some reason I think that this is the best move. Adam Armstrong to West Brom on loan. Now we all know Adam Armstrong, top goal scorer last year in the Championship. We know how prolific he is in the Championship. It's not quite worked for him in his seasons that he has been in
Top
the
goal
Premier
scorer, is it
League with
not Sammy
Southampton.
Smodics in the end?
Um,
I'm fact checking you. Yeah, it was Sammy
oh, it was
Smodics,
Sammy Smodics.
followed by Armstrong, followed by
It
Whitaker.
was Sammy Smodics,
That's all
followed
right.
by
I'll forgive
Armstrong.
you, mate. I'll forgive you. But
Sorry,
don't doubt
but
Sammy Smodics.
okay,
I love that boy. What a
even
player.
even then, we know how good of a striker Adam Armstrong is at this level. And it's something that West Brom need because I feel like they've lost that killer instinct at the moment. Obviously, Tony Mowbray is now in charge. Yeah, you lot obviously beating them at the weekend. Um, I, West Brom were in that situation, obviously sixth. They're in that pack. It's a close pack at the moment. Um, so I think Adam Armstrong is definitely a player that can help um, West Brom secure that playoff spot. That, to be honest, I do think
Yeah,
they
I agree
deserve.
totally. It was a pack that was a little bit separated, wasn't it? Until QPR gave Blackburn a little hump in last night. So day recording Wednesday for any of those that are wondering. That's why I'm saying last night as if it was the other day. Fine, all your transfers done. I don't really have any more to talk through. To be fair, there wasn't many that happened big time around Europe. You've got the Kvaratskhelia move, but we don't really need to touch on that. I think he's a decent player, but not really proven himself too much to warrant us covering him. But onto the FA Cup, the magic of the cup, the big one this weekend. So, do you want to run us through? Actually, you've got a new game for us both, don't you? So you've got a game that we're going to be playing.
Yeah, so each week, as you all know, we do predictions each week, um, and we're going to create a little league table. So we're going to pick 6 games each week, as we usually do. Um, this week might be a bit different because it's FA Cup. Each week we'll pick 6 games. We'll do our usual predictions: who will win, what the score will be. We get the correct team that win, 1 point. If we can guess the correct score, it's 3 points. An added 3 points. So that'll be your high score that you can get is 4 points. Me and Cal will have a little league table. We'll update it each week. And by the end of the season, in between this week, we'll come up with a forfeit. We'll think of something to do. Um, but yeah, I just thought make things a
I
little bit
agree.
more
I think that'd be a good
interesting.
little fun game, and it's nice we're starting in February. I think transfers are now all out the window. We could have started at the beginning of the season, but we didn't actually have the pod then, so it doesn't really make sense to do that. But now all the transfers are out there. We
Yeah,
know the teams that are set in stone now for the rest of the leagues. I think it makes a little bit of fun now every week, because we will be back now every week. Apologies for the mishap last week, but yeah, we will now be back every week now. Hopefully to the end of the season. Again, if there's weeks where we're both busy, then we can't. But yeah, so on to the FA Cup, mate. On to the magic. Do you want to name the 5 or 6 games? Normally 5 or 6. How many do you want to do? 6. Okay, do you want to name the
we'll
games and
do
then we'll start
6.
from the one you name first?
Yeah, well, to be honest, let's just go through it in kind of order of the games. My first game I want to touch on is
United,
on Friday night.
United Leicester.
Obviously, it's Manchester United, Leicester. Um, look, both teams, Leicester really struggling, obviously, with a horrible uh, defeat to Everton at the weekend. Obviously, they beat us, which is gutting, absolutely gutting. Um, United, again, they come off the back of disappointing results. It's a really tough game to call. It's obviously Rude's. Am I correct to say this is Rude Van Nistelrooy's first
Rude's
time
homecoming,
back
yeah.
at Old Trafford? Um, so I'm sure Van Nistelrooy's got a bit to prove. He wants to obviously beat Man United. I know there's a lot of love there, but on the day there won't be. Um, I don't know how you think this is going to go, but I think United will rotate, and I don't think this is. I don't know. Will United be looking to win this competition? I honestly, I don't see them having any chance with the
I
way they're
agree. I
playing at
don't
the
think they're going to
moment.
win the competition. But I did say this is a competition. When they're playing Arsenal, we had them, and I said that if they do win, this will be a competition that they have to look to win. Because I think it will be the only one they do get a chance of winning. I don't think they're going to win the Europa League. As much as people keep saying they're going to win the Europa League, I just honestly cannot see them. They're a team that over two legs, they will slip up in one of them. And I reckon it will be costly. Whereas this is one legs now. We all know that there's not any replays. So this is your opportunity for 90 minutes, 120 minutes. Go at it. Go at the game. What they did against Arsenal was perfect for me. They went down to did they go down to 10? They did go down to 10, didn't they? And then they just fought. They
Yeah,
fought. It looked like a Man United performance. At the moment, they are so terrible. And I don't have a soft spot for United. I honestly do not care, if I'm honest, if they do well or bad. But you have to see United fighting. There's no reason they should be down. They're 12th in the league, aren't they, at the moment? Is it 12th? 14th, 12th,
I think it's
13th. They're in between.
14th, isn't it?
Um, they should not be that low, and they just don't look like a team with any desire to want to win. They've got no real ambition off the pitch. I touched on earlier that story. If that's true, that says everything about United. But I do think this is the game, back to the Leicester game. I do think this is a game that they have to go and win. I think they will win. But again, we will do our predictions come the end of the game. And then, yeah, Leicester, that's a sinking ship there. I think they are going down. With Southampton, I think if anyone's going to stay up, it will be Ipswich. I think they just have that fight. And then, like you say, it's just gutting for you because you did lose pretty miserably to Leicester, and you could have had a lovely away day in Manchester, which would have been very, very good. I did a trip up north recently, denying that was good fun. So Manchester would have been a decent one for you. But yeah, so on to the next game. We're going to do our predictions at the end, aren't we? So we're going to do all
Yeah.
of our
Look,
results and predictions, and then you can write down, and then you get Liam's going to be doing the scoring. So any biased or any fake results, we know where they're going. As for my next game, so we're going to pick a game each, shouldn't we? Leyton Orient versus Man City. I think it's the one on everyone's mind, isn't it? It's such a good game. Leyton Orient fans getting a nice home game to Man City. Will City play their new boys? Will City play a rotated squad? Will City go full strength? Is this competition City can win? There's a lot of questions surrounding Man City at the moment. And are they going to win something? They've got Real Madrid in the Champions League. It's looking rather unlikely they win that. They're not going to win the league. They're out of the Carabao Cup. Will we see City go trophyless for the first, the second time under Pep? The first time was his first season, wasn't it? But yeah, what are your thoughts?
um, I think this is a competition that they're going to go for. I really do. Um, I think City need to win something. Uh, or not need to win something, but I think Pep's going to want to win something. It's that simple. Um, they do face. This is a tough test. I know, obviously,
Tough
Leighton Orient,
test.
small club, League One. People might say no, but people might say that. But they've got to. Leighton Orient fans are going to be backing their team. It's going to be sold. It's going to be sold out. And Leighton
The
Orient
away end
aren't
won't
having
be
a bad
sold out.
season. They're sat in
Home end
sixth.
might
They've
be, the
got some
away one. All 10 of them will go.
they've got some quality players, Leighton Orient. Like they they're not they're a free flowing side. Um, scored a fair amount of goals this season. They got Charlie Kelman up top, who I know well just through QPR. Um, again, he on his day can be such a clinical striker, and he played a big part in Leighton Orient getting to this game. So look, I wouldn't write off Leighton Orient at home, 12:30 kickoff. Yeah, it's anyone's game, but City are definitely they won't go full strength, but
I think we'll see a couple of
they'll
the
be
new
looking to
boys
win this game
potentially. I think we'll see that. I
for sure.
don't want to butcher his name. Xenov? You know the one I mean? Centre half. Yeah, I don't want to butcher his
Something
name.
like that, yeah.
It's a name that could go probably wayward, and I don't want to do that. I don't think my reputation would allow me to like that. So, but yeah, to be fair, you've hit the nail on the head with City, Leyton Orient there. If I'm honest, I do think City are going to win. I think we said the same about Salford when they played them. I do think they're going to win City, but like I say, it's not going to be an easy walkover. We saw teams in the lower league. I know Tamworth were incredibly lower, but we saw them give a good fight to Tottenham, and I think this will be the same. I think Leyton Orient will give a good go, but I just think City have that out and out quality eventually to win, and I think it will be a bit of a bigger scoreline. But yeah, next game. It's my pick of a game, isn't it? Or unless you've got one more thing to say. Oh yeah. Oh sorry.
That's my pick. I just want to quickly shout out Wigan. Obviously, they got Fulham at home, but we're not going to talk
Wigan.
about that game today.
Shout out to Wigan fam.
Shout out.
Will Griggs up the ticks. Come on. Oh God, those are the days.
But look, I'm going to go on to another League One side, Birmingham versus Newcastle. Now that's the 7:45 kickoff. Birmingham, they're already one step away. As of recording, they're one step away from a trip to Wembley. Obviously in the Checker Trade Trophy, is that what it's called?
Oh, I'm not sure. But so Newcastle, don't forget that.
No. Yeah, well, obviously Birmingham, they beat Steve.
Oh yeah, was that the quarterfinals?
1-0. That sent them through to the semi-final. Yeah, so that sends them now to the semi-finals. So they've got that to look forward to. But we've seen how strong Birmingham have been this season in the league. They're clear at the top, 4 points clear. Wickham have had a big drop off. But yeah, 4 points clear with 2 games in hand. So look, I think they're going to go fully at this game. They've got some great players. Stansfield being one.
I hate Jay Stansfield.
I'd love to see. But look, and then Newcastle, I think it will all depend. And I know this sounds stupid, but it will all depend on tonight. Obviously, as of recording tonight, is Newcastle Arsenal, the second leg in the Carabao Cup, currently sit 2-0 up. But it all depends on what happens tonight, because I think that's a huge game. I don't want to drift into that, but for example, if Newcastle were to be knocked out, then by all means they're going to go for this. I still think they'll give it a good go, but I think Birmingham have every right and every chance of winning this game.
I agree,
genuinely.
And I don't like Birmingham, but I agree. Like I said, we don't really want to touch on the Carabao Cup too much tonight because the games are pretty late. If we had probably had an episode last week, we may have touched on them. But for anyone that doesn't know, that's Arsenal, Newcastle tonight, and then Tottenham versus Liverpool tomorrow night. Spurs and Newcastle do go into those games with the lead. But yeah, I totally agree. I think Birmingham are well in this game, and it does have something to say though for Birmingham, which I don't know may not affect anything. But Newcastle have a game tonight, and then Saturday. Birmingham don't have a game tonight, but have a game Tuesday. So they both have games the same distance apart from the match. What does that look like for a team like Birmingham? Because they are probably going to be prioritising that game against Cambridge as it is one of their games in hand. Or will they look to strength against Newcastle and hope to cause a cup set? Like, what if you were? I can't remember their manager now. Why is his name just left my mind? Wow. Birmingham manager. I just had it in my head. I was literally just looking at it. Chris Davis, his name is, but that wasn't who I was thinking. Well, anyway, that's besides the point. If you were Chris Davis or you were the manager, you're playing Football Manager now. What would you do? Do you rotate your side for Newcastle, or do you go in with the ambition of beating Newcastle and running through, playing again Tuesday against Cambridge, who are a weakened side?
Oh, mate, they're going full strength at home at St Andrews. They are going to have the fans on their side. I honestly think this is. I don't know why. I know we said this last time about Salford and what happened to them. They got battered 8-0. I think this is a real chance for a cup upset, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
fine.
I agree.
But yeah,
I'd actually quite like Newcastle saying because not the next game we talk about, the game after that is the big one for me. But if we pull off, we'll talk about that shortly. Sounds like I'm going to flip an orgasm while talking about it. I don't mean that. Okay, so not my next game away from. Oh God, my next game is going to be a little Midlands derby, not a full derby, but a little bit of a one. We've got Blackburn, feisty team, against Wolves, out of form Wolves as well. I know we saw them beat Villa, but they're not in the best of form. They've just kept hold of Cunha. But that's going to be the game I pick. That's the Sunday. So we've done 3 now. This is the 4th game we're choosing. There's 2 more games after this, which I think we both know which ones they're going to be anyway. But yeah, this Blackburn Wolves game. What are your thoughts? If I'm going straight with a bold one, Blackburn. But what are your thoughts?
No, after watching Blackburn last night, and I've watched them over the last few weeks, ever since I think I mentioned it in a couple of pods, ever since that John Eustace had that links to West Brom, things haven't looked the same for Blackburn. They've been really out of form as of
Do you think
late.
his head's gone?
Um, I don't know. Last night just didn't. You look at him; he doesn't look like he's inspiring the players. He looks quite. I think he's halfway out the door. I think he's kind of fed up. And yeah, I can see this Wolves obviously a great result of the weekend. I can't see anything but a Wolves win. Blackburn are really going to focus on getting that playoff spots because as it stands, obviously us and um, Blackburn, we've played a game in hand, so we're obviously 3 points off the playoffs. Blackburn are only just in the playoffs, but I'm sure with the games in hand, they're going to fall out. So I think they're going to have to prioritise more league.
And they
Not saying they will, but I'm sure they're going to give this a good go at Ewood Park. But for me, I think can't
they've
see a
got a
world where
big
Wolves.
away day, don't they, as well, Blackburn, during midweek. Got West Brom. So talking about resting players and not necessarily going full strength, this may be potentially the week that they do rest some, get a couple of the young lads in, give them an FA Cup game, and then full focus on that West Brom game, because that is a big game. That's a massive, massive game for their seasons, in fact, because they're both next to each other. And like you say, that will be, because some teams aren't playing midweek, if I'm correct. So that will be technically Blackburn's second game above some teams. And if that team falls to be in the midweeks, am I correct in saying that? I may be completely wrong.
No,
They're all
all teams
playing
are
this
playing
week, are they?
midweek, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Oh yeah, they are. I
Yeah.
read that wrong because I was looking at the Premier League game. I was counting that for some reason. I was like, there must be a team not playing, but I was looking at the wrong league. But yeah, I think they'll have to go full strength against West Brom. There's no reason why they should or could even afford to drop any players against West Brom. So I think, yeah, like you say, you might be right in the fact that they may not beat Wolves, but I think Wolves just look so uninspiring. I know, again, they beat Villa, but it's just a club that I don't see a path into light for them at the moment. It just seems gloom after gloom after gloom. It doesn't seem like they actually have got the light at the end of the tunnel there just yet. Don't get me wrong, I think they will. They're a big team. They've got good players in there. They've just renewed Cunha's contract, as I mentioned. So they're not a team that really looks like they should be lacking, but at the moment they just are for me. But yeah, your next game, and if you don't pick this game, I'm going to be fuming with you.
Yeah, look, I think we'll talk about both of these ones quite quickly
Yeah,
to round
both the
off.
Sunday
Still
ones,
got to
right?
do our
Is
predictions.
that what we're all going for?
Yeah, look, let's touch on Plymouth Liverpool first. Obviously, a massive game for you as a fan. Um, look, I think you would have rathered it the other way around, it being at Liverpool, but obviously, still a massive game for you lot. Fill out home park. Yeah, I'll leave this to you.
If you want me to
What are
be
your
honest, or do you
thoughts
want
on
me
the
to be
game? To be
delusional?
honest,
We win.
be honest
We win 1-0.
with a bit of delusion.
If I was being delusional, I would say we win 1-0, just because I don't really want to see us lose. I'm not going to predict ever we're going to lose. So this is where I am going to slip up, and you've probably got lucky that QPR aren't in the cup anymore, because I'm definitely not going to be getting any points from this result. But then again, if I'm being honest, I don't think Liverpool will go fully strength. They can afford to not go strength. If I'm being completely honest, they are playing a pretty dismal Plymouth side. I know we've had 2 great results since the Burnley game. We had Sunderland and then we had West Brom. West Brom 3 points, Sunderland a draw. That's the best scenario I think we could have had. Obviously, we could have had 6 points, but that was unrealistic. So I think we do come into this in better form. The team spirit seems to be up, which is kind of what we're looking for. And again, I think it's nice for us to have such a big club to play against. It brings in a decent bit of revenue for the team, for the squad, for the chairman. But then it also gets the players. There's Liverpool players, Liverpool fans that play for Plymouth. Callum Wright being one. That's just such a good experience for him. This is actually a moment which I think, no matter we're in the Championship. Who cares? That goes out the window. This is just a good experience for the football club, for the fans, for the manager in there, for the players, like everyone involved. This is brilliant. I don't have a bad word to say about this game. And we had them in 2017 at home as well, and then drew and took them back to their place, but no replays, unfortunately. But yeah, we're going to go on to our predictions, but I don't really have much more to say. I just think this could be for me. Again, no bias. I think this will be the game of the weekend. I think you will see a strong Liverpool team who probably win quite comfortably. But I think the fans are going to be in good spirits. I think the Liverpool boys that are coming down to Plymouth, I think it's just going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be like a Community Shield game. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying this is it. We do have a small chance. 2%, but there's a chance.
Yeah, look, never say never. You've come into it in a little bit of form, like you said, but I think, yeah, you beat Brentford, brilliant. I don't think you're going to go much further. Is that a negative thing for Plymouth? No, because you seriously need to concentrate where you are in the league, because those results those 4 points that you've picked up have been actually massive for you. Because at the end of the day, it looked like you were getting a bit tailing off a little bit from the little group.
4
And now,
points
if you
from
look at it,
safety at the moment.
your 4 points from safety. Your next game is Millwall, which again they've come into form. Millwall, as of late, but that's a
And then
place to go
Blackburn,
get a
who
result at.
aren't a
So
walkover, but still winnable.
yeah, and again not in form like I said. So yeah, I do think you'll just focus on that. But yeah, I think now let's touch on that last game of
The
Villa versus
biggest game
Spurs.
in terms of
Again,
capacities of clubs, isn't it?
yeah, again look, Villa. I think Villa. This is a competition where they could go under the radar. Um, I would not be shocked if I saw Villa in the final. I really wouldn't. Um, I, re- I really like Aston Villa as a football club. I think they're well run. They've got a great manager in charge in Emery, building a really good squad. And then again, this game, I'm going to sound like a broken record saying it the exact same as what happened with Newcastle. But again, Thursday night, Tottenham versus Liverpool in the cup. They've got a 1-0 lead. Let's
It's a
see
big
how that
game as well,
goes.
isn't it? Tomorrow night. We'll probably do a little bit of
Um,
coverage. I love a TikTok at the moment, so you'll probably see one from me.
yeah, but I think this again is going to be a really interesting one. Tottenham so out of form. Obviously picked up a win uh, at the weekend, but Tottenham just looks so uninspiring. And I think Ange is out of his depth at Spurs, and I would not be surprised if it's not long until we see him gone. But yeah, look,
Yeah,
tough
I
one to
think
call. I
when we
think
go
this
into our
one.
predictions, we'll both see.
Uh,
But I think you've hit the nail on the head. The only thing really, Ange, I do like him, but that's personal preference. I think he's one of those, isn't he? It's complete personal preference with him. He's not a manager that you can get behind and be like, you're a great manager, but you're a whatever word you want to put in there. But yeah, his style's not for everyone. And for me, the results they're getting on the pitch really are not good enough. Any other manager would have been sacked by now, but Spurs are in this 18-month cycle, we'll call it. They just get a manager, sack a manager, get a manager, sack a manager, get a manager, sack a manager. So as long as you're going to be showing him some faith and throwing some money at it, for goodness sake, like everyone talks about the James Maddison signing. Yeah, they signed somebody. But in the last 15 years, 10 years, when have you ever really? I know they've got quite high revenue and all of that sort of stuff. They've spent quite a bit of money on the new stadium, all of this jazz, but you never really see them make any statement signings. I'll always touch on the Gareth Bale money with Spurs.
no,
There's nothing to show for that. Not a penny. And that broke the transfer record at that time. So, yeah, that kind of says everything about Tottenham. So, yeah, like you say, this is a competition that I think they should be going to win. They should be trying to win at least. The league's done. that you're not getting a European football next season unless you win the Europa League. So you have to be focusing now on these cup competitions. You lose to Liverpool tomorrow night. Again, you may see some coverage of ours on TikTok or Instagram covering that game. But if you lose to Liverpool tomorrow night and then lose on Sunday, and yeah, I fully agree with you. There's no reason why he should stay then because you're not gaining anything from him. But that's personal preference. Again, prediction time. You ready?
Yeah, look, I'll reel off the
get your notes
games
ready.
first, and you
You're
can
going to be
answer
writing these
first.
down.
Yes. So
it's the
Cal starts
Friday
off
night.
then.
I'm going to go 3-0 United. Bold.
No
You?
worries. 3-0 United. Let's go through all of yours
Right,
first.
okay.
So I can
Listen
write
off.
them all
City
down.
versus Leighton Orient. 5-0
Yeah.
City. The next one we had was Birmingham Newcastle. 2-1 Newcastle.
Yep.
And then we go into Sunday. Blackburn versus Wolves. 1-0 Blackburn.
Wow.
Plymouth versus Liverpool. Do I have to? 1-0 Plymouth. I'm going to whisper that. 1-0 Plymouth. Just for anybody that watches, anyway, saw us on TikTok too. If I hit this bang on the head, don't shoot the messenger. That will, yeah. If we win 1-0, you won't see me. There'll be no episode next week. I'll be on a week bender. I'll be gone. I'll be out of the country. And then Tottenham versus Villa. I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs. Yeah, I'm going bold. There's no point playing it safe. Okay. So if I hear 1-0's coming out of you from all 6 games, no, good. Go on, mate. Over to you.
So, first game is United-Leicester. I am going to go with a 3-0 United win as well.
Yeah, boring.
I know it's the same, but I think it's... I'm going to go with a 3-1 City win against Leighton Orient. And then, where we look in Newcastle, I'm going to go
it's gone for. I knew you were. I knew you were. You couldn't not.
And then I'm going to go with a 3-0 Wolves win. I can't see Blackburn getting anything from this. I'm going to go with a 4-0
Plymouth.
4-0 Liverpool win. And I'm going to go with a 2-1 Villa.
So predictions all done, mate.
So that there are predictions, and we'll be doing that each week. I'll update you on all of the table.
We'll try and get maybe like a live league or something as well, if we can. If I can have a play around with that.
Yeah. But look, next week we'll touch on the results briefly, and then we're going to go on to our Premier League and Championship games. Our episode probably won't be out until probably like next Thursday, meaning that we will not be picking up the Championship midweek games. So we'll be doing every Saturday games. So yeah, next week's Championship games we will not be talking about. But I'm sure me and Cal, we can put something out.
Yes. If anyone's listened to this far,
our predictions,
get into Liam.
All the games.
Get into Liam. I'm the only one that puts on that TikTok. It's just a one-man band at the moment. So get on.
Yeah, I know. We'll do TikTok predictions of the Championship.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. We'll do midweek predictions. We'll talk about that off camera as well. But yeah, midweek predictions
for the week.
Before we go and enjoy Newcastle Arsenal, are you watching it tonight? Gonna watch it? Yeah, I'm gonna have a watch as well. So we've got an hour and 15 until that. You have
also
Leeds
have Leeds on.
Plug in the TV, mate. They don't go on the TV. There you go, in it.
Leeds versus. Leeds got
Sunderland plays in Borough. Leeds have got thingy. What's their name? I'm having to look at it now. Coventry. Last thing before we go, anyone that is listening, you're going to have to listen. And while I say this, but my fantasy football was 73 points on the weekend with a double game week for Liverpool. So anybody that's playing along, try and beat 73 with then Salah, Diaz, and Trent still to play. So yeah, it's been a good week all round, mate. I hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoy your week and the weekend upcoming. Who have QPR got this weekend, or is there no Championship football at all? I didn't actually have a look, to be fair. Yeah, there is.
Obviously, there's no Championship football. That's why we played Blackburn.
Yeah, there is.
Not on the weekend. Oh, maybe there is then. But we had to play Blackburn on Tuesday.
That's
so
why.
obviously
Yeah, there is. I
football.
was going to say, there's
So
definitely championship football. Not every championship team's in the FA Cup. Oh, fine. So, yeah, there's some decent games actually still on the weekend. So, if you're not an FA Cup fan, you hate the Cup, then go and find yourself watching Sunderland versus Watford. And all good? Nothing else?
But yeah, tune in for our
Yeah.
championship predictions in the week on Tuesday. Other
Football.unfiltered
than
as
that,
well
I
on
think that's
there
us
and on
done.
Instagram and on Twitter now as well. We're bolstering now, but that's called Footy Unfilter because TikTok doesn't, Twitter doesn't allow you to have a name longer than 15 characters. And Football Unfiltered is 16, which I was fumingly trying to put in. But yeah, mate, all good. We're waffling on now. Let's go and watch the Arsenal Newcastle game. Have a lovely week,
Yeah,
and
we are.
we'll catch you next time. See you later.
See you later. Thank you.